definitely the fastest bike you can buy for this price.
So I just bought the most affordable electric dirt bike that claims to go 50 miles per hour. This is the new X1 Spark. So here's exactly how the bike comes shipped to your house. It was delivered by FedEx. Let's get this thing quickly unboxed and see how easy it is to put together. What the heck? It's like they glued this box together. I'm done messing around. This has got to be one of my favorite tools this year. Hey, I think this is the first electric fit bike with a brake light and turn signals. So what the heck is up with how they mounted it? It's like they just stuck a screw down from the top of the fender. Not even kidding, this bike was just sitting inside the box. Hopefully it didn't come damaged. First thing I noticed after taking the bike out of the box is how big this motor is. Check that out. That's almost the size of a Qronge one. Like here's the ETM RTR stock motor from the 8 kilowatt 72 volt bike. See how much smaller the RTR motor is versus the one on this bike? It's making me think that this bike might produce a decent amount of torque. As far as aesthetics though, I'm not really big on orange. Especially not orange wheels. It's like the first thing I spray painted black on my Tudio before I switched over to the Supermotos. Aesthetics wise so far, not so bad though. The build quality up close is the build quality. And check out the taillight mounting that I was talking about. I just don't understand why they didn't just make this a stud at the bottom of the rear subframe, since I see that it pinches the rear portion of the frame here. They didn't have to have it go through the rear fender like that. But it's not an absolute deal killer for me if this $1,100 bike actually goes 50 miles per hour. And here's everything else that came in the package. Front wheel and tire. 14-inch rim. Tire size is 60/114. And it's got a 190 millimeter front disc brake. Front fender, front number plate, user manual, toolkit, and the charger. The charger is a 67.2 volt output, which means this is a 60 volt battery, but it is a 2 amp charger. That's probably gonna be the most disappointing thing for me so far. This bike's probably gonna take a really long time to charge. I was super excited about it being a 60 volt, but come on guys, it's 2026. You should at least include a 5 amp charger by now. Well, I like that the headlight and the display already came mounted on this bracket and you just put the 2 bolts on to put on the 333 clamp. And same thing with the handlebars. They already came mounted on the handlebar clamps, so you just put the 2 Allen bolts down the bottom. That certainly reduces the amount of assembly that the end user has to do. Though I do want to rotate a lot of this stuff just a little bit forward. Huh. Half throttle. That's an interesting choice. That's something I usually see on a regular pedal e-bike, but not an E-Moto. Oh, I see. The spacer should go between the front number plate and the 333 clamp. Kind of sandwiches in between. I do like the look of the front fender, though it looks a bit long for the size of the bike. It almost seems like something designed for a larger bike like a Talaria or a Qronge that has a 17 or 19-inch front wheel. Before we put the front wheel on, we're going to add a little bit of grease to the front axle. Came with 2 wheel spacers for the front. The longer one is for the side where the brake caliper is mounted, and the shorter one is for the opposite. Get the brake rotor in between the brake pads first, then put the spacers in. Just make sure there's no excess drag on the front wheel. I probably should have put the chain on the sprocket before I connected the rear shock, but we haven't torqued anything down, so not a big deal. Since the bike was shipped with the swing arm fully compressed, the rear mudguard was all curled up like this. And I can see this making a bunch of noise as we hit bumps. So I might take a heat gun and try to straighten this out so it doesn't make contact with the swing arm. Chain tension seems all right, straight from the factory. There we go. Now we got at least ½ inch of clearance. I'm just gonna leave the bike on the charger overnight to make sure we have a fully charged battery for the first test ride. Let's quickly go over all the specs and features of the new Qronge X1 Spark. Claims to have a top speed of 50 miles per hour in their fastest mode. There are 3 different modes. There's Eco, there's Sport, and then there's Turbo mode. The Eco mode is capped at 12.5 miles per hour, while the Sport mode is capped at 22 miles per hour. It's got a mid-drive motor, which seems to be much larger than most of the pit bikes in this price range. This has a peak power output of 4,500 watts and produces 283 Newton meters of torque. This is a 60 volt, 28.8 amp hour lithium battery pack, and Qronge claims that this bike has a range of up to 60 miles, but I'm glad that they specify that that's on their slowest eco mode setting. The claimed range on the fastest setting, which is turbo mode, is 21 miles, which is pretty realistic for the size of the battery, assuming you're like me and like to cruise at much higher speeds. It's got hydraulic suspension front and rear. Front travel is 150 millimeter and the rear travel is 75 millimeter. Wheel set size is a 14-inch front and 12-inch rear. Pretty typical for pit bikes this size. Rear tire size is 80/112. I believe there is an L model version of this bike. The L version doesn't only come with a 17-inch front and 14-inch rear wheel, but the headlight is actually going to be integrated with the front number plate. It's got hydraulic disc brakes, 200 millimeter front rotor and 200 rear. Here's a closer look at the brake master cylinders and levers. It uses DOT fluid and heavy duty lines, much fatter than what you find on a mountain bike. It's got an LED headlight, LED taillight with a functional brake lamp and turn signals, though it doesn't have turn signals for the front. It's got a half twist throttle with a keyed ignition. The power is actually not supplied to the bike till you turn the separate battery button on. Then you can now key the ignition, showing full in this battery gauge and this one as well. The digital display is very minimal, just shows the speed, battery charge, and the odometer. Let's see if we can toggle through that with this. So this button only toggles through the 3 different modes, as you can see on the display. 1, 2, and 3. Doesn't seem to have any other functions. On the left-hand side here, we have the horn, turn signals. Oh, it's also got the turn signal indicators on the display, and a on-off switch for the headlight. The LED headlight has a couple different modes. This is just the normal white LED. Turn it off and turn it on again is yellow LED. And it's got this flashing white and yellow strobe. I don't really understand, but I guess if you really want to get someone's attention on the road, you can keep that setting on. But I'm probably gonna ride with this one. This bike already came with a 420 chain, so no need to upgrade a 35. Came with a 58 tooth rear sprocket. The bolt pattern appears to be the same as the Tudio or the Yasma in case you needed to swap out the gearing. You know, I thought I misspoke earlier when I said 190 millimeters since their listing online says 200 millimeters, but the rotors are right about 7.5 inches in diameter, which is 190 millimeters. And the rear is as well, so the listing should probably be changed to 190 mil front and rear. Not really a big deal since that seems to be what the market is doing. The ones on this Yasma are 190 mil as well, along with the ones on the Tudio. So this bike weighs in at 125 pounds. Seems about right. Yeah, it's definitely lighter than my Talaria. It's got a payload capacity rating of 350 pounds. Which I don't know if that's realistic since I'm only 185 pounds today, and it seems to squat pretty easily. If I didn't read the spec sheet, I probably would have guessed 275. And their listing also doesn't mention seat height, but this is what I look like on it at 5'8". It's about an inch below my inseam. The height is noticeably much taller than the new Qronge M200 or the Yasma IN10. It's about the same height as the Tudio Soleil. If you want to get more details on the new Qronge X1 Spark, I'll have a link to their listing in the description below. As of today, it's listed for $1149, though I'm not sure if they're going to be changing the price in the near future. Either way, you can still get yourself $50 off this bike by using discount code PATOutdoors.
First thing I'm going to test out is the speedometer accuracy and see how fast this thing can go on mode 1. So it seems to be capped at 27 miles per hour on the display on the bike, but GPS is showing 18 miles per hour. So the speedo is very, very inaccurate. Let's see what it does in mode 2. All right. Definitely has a lot more torque. Showing 51 on the display and 32 on the GPS. Let's hop into mode 3 and see how fast this thing can actually go. All right, we're in the 40s. Looking like 44 miles per hour so far. Not bad. I don't think I've ever ridden a bike that goes 44 miles per hour right out of the box for $1,100. One thing I haven't been too impressed with though is the throttle sensitivity. So let's set it back to mode 1, which is the least powerful. And I don't know, that's not bad if you're used to riding electric dirt bikes, but it seems a little bit jumpy for the lowest power setting. Like I would have made the throttle curve a little bit more linear than that, but I actually don't know what kind of controller this has. We're gonna take a deeper dive in all the components in another video, but if this thing has a far driver controller, I might be able to connect to it with a Bluetooth dongle and make some setting changes on the speedometer reading. I could potentially calibrate it and also smoothen out the throttle curve just to make it a lot more usable in the lower RPM range. Suspension feels pretty good. Stock suspension actually does pretty good off-road. Oh yeah, it'll definitely pick the front wheel up. It's got a decent amount of torque. Oh yeah, suspension actually works pretty good for being a completely stock bike. Yeah, the throttle, I wish I could do something about. Handles pretty good in tight spaces. This is a lot of bike for 1,100 bucks. She's got a decent amount of torque, not gonna lie. Like it picks up pretty quickly. That is pretty fast for a completely stock 60 volt bike. Like I think my Talaria came out of the box around 47, 48 miles per hour, but that was like $3,300. And this is 1/3 of the price. So I guess it really depends what's important to you. If you're looking for absolute maximum speed you can get for your dollar, this might be the bike for you. But if you're looking for slightly higher build quality, you know, something with D&M suspension and a lot of aftermarket part support in the future, if you're planning on doing upgrades, then you may want to consider a different option. But you really cannot beat this for 1,100 bucks. It doesn't exactly go 50 like the manufacturer stated, but 44 miles per hour for a 185-pound dude on a completely stock bike is very impressive. And handling wise, I think it does pretty good. Doesn't feel like it has awkward suspension geometry or anything. And the riding position is pretty comfortable for a 5'8" rider. Like the handlebar comes up pretty high above my knees, which is my pet peeve on the smaller bikes. Like this is actually more comfortable than the Osmo IN10 or the Valtinzu EM5. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I gotta say, there has been quite a few changes in the e-bike market this past year. Like just 3 years ago, I was spending like $1,300 just to turn my Razor MX 650 into a 48 volt, 40 mile an hour bike. And that's on top of buying the bike itself. And it still has cable brakes and spring fork and a 12-inch front wheel and a 10-inch rear. And it's just maybe like 3 or 4 inches shorter than this. So it's very surprising to me that just a few years later, $1,100 can get you essentially an electric 110 pit bike. Like the brakes and the suspension that come on this bike seems to be properly mated for its capability. I can't even imagine what comes out in another 2 years in the e-bike market. Like, are we gonna start getting 72 volt bikes for $1,000? I just noticed something kind of odd though. I just noticed this battery charge meter is showing completely full on the throttle, and the one on the display is probably showing between 75 and 80% charge. So there's some sort of inaccuracy over here. Though there is a sticker on the throttle that shows LI48V. So I wonder if this throttle is meant to work with a 48 volt system, because if that's the case, that's probably going to read full charge the whole time. So Qronge, if you're watching this, you should probably look into that. This is definitely the fastest bike you can buy for this price. The seat is definitely a bit uncomfortable though. I have only been riding this for maybe 20 minutes so far, and my ass is starting to hurt. Oh man, look at the voltage sag on this thing. The charge meter on the display is showing like 1/3 battery under load, but when you let go of the throttle, it goes back up. Granted, it is about 45 degrees outside today, so all bikes get voltage sag in winter time, but that's a noticeable amount. Yet the gauge on this side is still showing completely full under acceleration. So this throttle assembly is definitely meant for a 48 volt system. So what do I think about the Qronge X1 Spark? Well, so far, I think it's a lot of bike for the money, but it's definitely got some flaws as far as the build quality and some of the mismatching components such as this throttle. But hey, if you want to go 44 miles per hour stock for $1,100, you really can't beat this. As far as range though, it does seem pretty close. Like we're settling at about half charge right now, and this says that we've done 12 miles, but my GPS shows that we did 9. If you're cruising at 40 miles per hour on mode 3, you could probably get close to 20 miles with this thing. If you guys want to get more details on the new X1 Spark, I'll have a link to their listing in the description below. You can also get yourself $50 off this bike by using discount code PATOutdoors. Well, if you guys enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you like this kind of content and want to keep up with some of my projects or some of my E-Moto reviews, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn your bell notification on. But this is going to be it for today.